Social engineering attacks. So social engineering in the context of cybersecurity is the practice of deception by exploiting human vulnerabilities. It's using social engineering to create the cyber attack. And these human vulnerabilities are things like greed or gullibility or compassion or vanity. So maybe they could even be good things, but they exploit some kind of psychological shortcoming of humans. So social engineering acts are part of cyber attacks and computer intrusion, very common. The source and target of a social engineering act may be an individual or organization. So maybe one individual hacker attacks an organization, or it could be also one big organization, either criminal or supported by a government, can attack an individual if it's a very big and rich and valuable individual. Or they can attack organizations and vice versa. Social engineering can lead people to download the computer malware and allow intruders into the computer system. So that's why it's bad. In a way, it kind of uses old, it's a kind of a, the con artist tricks or confidence tricks that have been used for centuries by humans into tricking and exploiting human weaknesses to deceit and defraud. So there are many dimensions of a social engineering attack. Here we talk about just kind of some examples of the taxonomy. So on the technology level, we got email. This may come from email. They may come from malware. They may come from web page. They may come from text messages. These can be criminals, hackers, or hoaxers. So some, different levels of potential issue. There could be financial gain. It could be about disrupting a service. It could be just gaining access. Incentives, once again, financial gain could be by authority or governments want to just spy on people, kind of spy, or friendship. I'm not sure how that works, but commitment, scarcity or urgency, reciprocity, social validation, security. So these are different incentives for social engineering attacks. Targets could be individuals or organizations or governments or businesses. Technique, pretexting, phishing, and farming. We'll talk about some of these later. So continue here. The poster child of social engineering is the advance fee fraud, in which the victim is promised a large sum of money in exchange for a bank account number from which a small advance fee is withdrawn. And you may certainly have received a message, an email like this, and that's a very common social engineering type of scam or cyber attack. And you got to be careful not to fall for it. Here's a message that I actually got. So I went to look for some apartments on something like Craigslist, right? Or some other kind of website, which is kind of open. So you got to be really careful. And I actually looked legitimate. I sent an email inquiry about and then reply, hello, thanks for showing your interest. It's available for rent. You can view any day between 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. All utilities, no deposit, bills, security. And first of all, you can kind of tell that the grammar is really weird. All utilities, no deposit, bills, security deposit, and car parking included in rent. Bills included in rent. Okay, the grammar is okay, but are you kidding me? I never heard of that. All my bills are included in the rent. But first, we want to check your criminal history and credit background. Please check your identity IQ score. Apply here on my identity IQ score. What is this? I thought criminal history. What is IQ score? Simply fill out and check your credit. Why do I have to do that before I even go check the property? So clearly, to me, it's like this is a scam. It's totally a scam. They take just $1 that is refundable. Either way, so many the indications, that this is not a professional email. It's not an actual organization. The information doesn't make sense. They say they're going to pay all my bills. Too good to be true. This is, you got to be careful. These messages are coming out every time. So don't click the link. Just because you click the link doesn't mean everything is going to get installed and everything's going to end, but avoid at all costs. So spam, let's talk a little bit about spams. Spam is defined as and unsolicited messages that are usually sent in massive numbers using electronic mail systems. It accounts for approximately 70% of all email. Everyone gets spam. Mass mailing databases obtain millions of email addresses at low costs. Your email address is often published on websites because people need to email you and you want to make the information available to them. So it's very easy for other companies to obtain your email address and spam. In 2003, the US Congress passed a so-called anti-spam law, the CAN Spam Act, controlling the assault of non-solicited pornography and marketing act of 2003. You can imagine you have kids just beginning setting up emails, and then just they have their boxes flooded with pornographic emails, which is just not a nice thing. So there are some laws about that, and they really stop. And also, of course, all the technical techniques by companies and applications like Google Gmail and stuff that identify spam messages and filter your messages. So most internet service providers and email services use some kind of filtering techniques to block spam from specific IP addresses, or that have some certain characteristics in the text of the content. This often uses things like text mining and natural language processing to identify which messages are legitimate. So you can kind of see here, there's all kinds of things you can look for in the text that show it's not legitimate. It's not 100%, but they do apply it. Spammers have developed techniques to bypass these barriers. Surprise, surprise. And spam continues to make its way into consumer mailboxes. It's an eternal cat and mouse pursuit. Defending against spam requires careful inbox management, which may be applied at the organization or application level. So once again, the email services themselves, the email apps, apply certain measures. The organization may have certain business procedures that need to be followed to avoid this. And also you may apply your own kind of management by redirecting your content and being smart about the content, how you're organizing your information and what you're selecting to view or not. Phishing scam. So just kind of to wrap this up, let's just talk about phishing a little bit, because phishing is all over the internet too, and it's usually an email that masquerades as a message from a legitimate company or agency of authority, such as the IRS. The goal of phishing scam is to obtain private information such as password and bank card numbers. Now, some messages like the one I was showing before regarding the apartment for rent, you can kind of think this is phishing because it looks like they're trying to get information from me or somehow have me download some spyware or malware. But usually when we're talking about phishing, we're talking about spear phishing attacks, which are usually more targeted and typically sent only to members of a specific organization. So the attacker may even know the person and better communicate to deceive the target. So they maybe would know my name and know where I work and know something about my company. And they can talk to me like they're a legitimate other employee or other person asking for information. So that's when it's really bad and difficult to detect. And that's very, very common form of way that computer servers and are intruded by hackers and others. Some of the most common attacks appear to originate from FedEx, UPS, DHL, or the US Postal Service, because these seem so legitimate. They're so ubiquitous. They're everywhere. So they usually use these kinds of fake, or they misauthenticate themselves as from these areas. So for example, you may see a message from Bank of America that looks like this: valued customer, easy pass. It looks totally legitimate. It has everything, has their logo. Everything looks legitimate, but it's really not. And it's kind of hard to tell, but that's why you kind of have to look around behind the message, hover your mouse over the content, so you see the actual URL, the actual address, and look for other identifying information to know if something's a phishing scam or not. Some of the other issues too are the rogue fake antivirus message. So we talked a little bit about this before. So there are rogue antivirus malware, which may begin with a virus warning and offer to disinfect the infected device. So this, you may actually have a malware that offers you to disinfect your own device. So this may be a kind of malware or spyware, which is another kind of or also called adware. It's all kinds of malware. So often you don't want to click this. You want to install your antivirus software and make sure you remove that from your computer. But also there are those fake virus alerts, which are pop-up windows that are automatically tell your computer has been um, um, infected. So make sure that these pop-up windows with the fake virus alerts, you don't click on them. You try to close them off and do not follow along what their information is. That's it for this one. See you next time.